Hello, lovelies. How are you all? So in about 6 minutes, I've got Scott Kellerby and Dan Mcclintock coming on. They are the co-creators of the Kellerby Inquiries, which is the set of advanced mindfulness techniques I used to dissolve my own depression 2 years ago, which was just so mind-blowing for me. I just could not believe that I had spent so long receiving talk therapy and just not improving. And it wasn't until I came across the Kellerby Inquiries that I was shown how to actually dissolve my depression using a body-based technique, a body-based approach, a somatic-based approach to which is basically learning how to feel your feelings and learning how to dissolve the words and pictures, the memories that you have in your mind that kind of keep telling you that there's something wrong with you. So this is the book. Here it is. I'm going to bring Scott Kellerby and Dan Mcclintock in because I'm just so grateful that these two men brought the Kellerby Inquiries into the world, because if I hadn't stumbled across the Kellerby Inquiries, I just thought I would have had depression for the rest of my life. That's just who I thought I was. I thought I just would have I'd be taking antidepressants forever. And it was quite a miracle for me. It was just like, I just can't believe I just don't need medication anymore, and I don't identify with having depression. And what I found was that there was something pivotal that was missing in my treatment. When you go and generally our general go-to is we go and talk. First of all, if we have depression or anxiety, we'll go to our GP, and then they might give us a mental health plan. And we'll go and have appointments with psychologists and counsellors, and a lot of that work is focused on talking through our problems and talking about our feelings and receiving some kind of insight as to what's happened in the past. And what I found that when I started using these techniques that I teach and share in this book, is that all I needed all that time was to learn a safe way to come into the body and feel my feelings. And if you're somebody who thinks feelings, that's got nothing to do with it, I just want to stop my thinking, I just want to stop my thoughts. Well, I was the same too. Thoughts and feelings go together. The thoughts feel so bad and excruciating and overwhelming because of the sensations in our bodies. And the great thing is that we have so much new research that's come out about the nervous system and the brain and the body relating to trauma, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And it shows why talk therapy or talking through our problems or talking about our feelings doesn't work for everyone. So if you're somebody, this is why I wrote this book, if you're somebody who just thinks there's something wrong with you because you can't get better, it might be because you don't respond to talk therapy, and that there are other options. And for a holistic approach to improving your mental health, because we have a body and a mind, we don't just have a mind, then a somatic-based approach or a body-based approach could be the answer for you, like it was the answer for me. So I am going to welcome in Dan and Scott. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've got a little bit of a cold. If I sound stuffy, it's like a non-COVID cold, which is something that's still happening, I guess. But yeah, I'm doing okay. Otherwise, yeah, I'm excited about the launch. I've been kind of following some of the posts that you've been doing. So,
I'm so glad. Thank you so much, and I'm glad you don't have COVID.
Yes, thank you.
That's good. Yeah, and thank you so much for your support. And it's just so good to finally meet you, Dan, because I know you through social media, but it's good to have an actual conversation.
Yes, likewise, definitely. There's Scott, I think.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much to both of you for joining me This is a very exciting day for me, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much to both of you for creating the Kellerby Inquiries, and I just want to thank life for helping me find the Kellerby Inquiries when I really needed it.
You're welcome. Definitely.
All right, so for everyone who's watching, Dan and Scott are the co-creators of the Kellerby Inquiries, which is the advanced set of mindfulness techniques that I use to dissolve my depression and improve my mental health and improve my life in general. And so the It's Okay to Cry is my book about my journey, and it also teaches the techniques of the Kellerby Inquiries. Like there's videos, like I've put QR codes in, so you can like watch my videos, and there's also really explicit instructions on how you can practice these techniques. But yeah, I just wanted to get you both on and share. It's so exciting that there's so much like science behind why this works. But I'll hand it over to you. I don't want to talk too much. But first of all, I'd like to know how did you both meet?
Dan, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. Yeah. Well, the first time I heard, I sort of was like a non-duality, like fanboy, basically. Like in like 2013, 14, I was listening to Boot at the Gas Pump, some of the interviews that Rick Archer does, and I heard one with Scott, and I remember hearing the interview and going, I feel like I know this guy, you know, I feel like I've known him, and this is just, there's some resonance there, you know? And so that's how I decided to go to the Kellerby Center as a client in 2014, went again in 2016, spent a bunch of time there just undoing, probably like you did, Bronte. I don't know your stories, but probably like that, just like kind of undoing all the stories and conditioning that had been driving my stuff. And so I did some sessions with him at the center first, and then my last day there, he said, would you ever consider coming out here to work here and to be a facilitator? And I was like, yeah, of course, you know. So I came, and then we just got on as friends. It just became a really awesome friendship. At first, for me, it was like meeting the rock star a little bit, you know, like, oh my gosh, like Scott and Byron Katie and Eckhart and all this stuff. And then it just became quickly just like, you know, that resonance that I'd had when I listened to the interview was right on, because we really connected as friends. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like magic right from the start.
Yeah.
So Scott, would you, in your own words, be able to explain what the Kellerby Inquiries is? How do you, because I know that you have, you know, you speak to different people, like you're both kind of in the non-dual world, which is, you know, a lot of people who are probably listening to my videos probably don't even know what that is. But like, so you might have a different way of explaining it, but I'm really interested to hear how you explain what the Kellerby Inquiries are.
It's difficult to explain the Kellerby Inquiries, isn't it? But let me say, when they say the non-dual world, people are aware of those who seek enlightenment, like Buddha had enlightenment. That's what the non-dual world is, those seekers of enlightenment, really. Most people can know what that is. How do I explain the Kellerby Inquiries? It's an awareness-based inquiry method. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we process things, we don't do it cognitively. We don't think about our lives and think about ourselves and try to understand and make ourselves better, rearrange our thoughts, revise our history, any of that. What we do is we question our beliefs and our stories and our programming by witnessing those thoughts. So it's so simple, because the mind might think, well, you need to be able to think about this and understand and analyze it. Come to find out, the deepest transformation comes from just witnessing thoughts and feelings. So we've developed a methodology which not only allows us to witness thoughts and feelings like you would in meditation, but to conjure up some thoughts that we don't even know that you have. Like, for example, like I'm sure with your depression, there were thoughts that you didn't recognize you were having that were, you know, contributing to the depression. So the Kellerby Inquiries, I think, are good at bringing those to the surface so that we can witness them. But it's not just about witnessing them, letting them go, like letting them dissolve away in the awareness. So that's about as good as I can get with a description, I think, without doing it with someone.
Yeah, I think that's good, and it's nice and simple, and they are such simple techniques. And what I want to say is that I spent so long trying to be positive and stay away from the negativity. Like I didn't want to get pulled into the negativity. And what I realized using the Kellerby inquiries was that when I use the techniques, it's not bad. Like there's nothing bad in the words. There's nothing bad in the feelings. And in fact, I found pleasure through the feelings. Like, and now I have the pleasure of taking my clients through it, where they're nervous about feeling grief, and then they go and feel the grief, and it's like they feel joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think that part of that comes. I was going to say part of that may come from if we say to people that we're going to bring grief up or we're going to work with depression, they may think that they're doing it the old way, like thinking about it and mulling around, in which it isn't very comfortable to do that, but we're not doing that. That's not what we're doing here. And so people have to come and learn what we're doing to see what we mean, that we don't mull around in it and dwell in it. We're bringing it up to let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a different technique. It's a different technique because we are so good and conditioned to think about the pain and think about the depression, but coming to the body and learning how to feel, which you can't actually do. You can't think and feel at the same time. You're either thinking or you're feeling. So so my book is all about learning to kind of reclaim this ancient this innate skill that we all have within us, but it does take a bit of practice to build up the feeling muscle again. So I have heard both of you came up with the Kellerby inquiries in a hot tub or a spa, which what we'd call here in Australia. Is that correct?
That is true. You call it a spa. Yeah, a jacuzzi or a hot tub. So when Dan came to the Kellerby Center is near Palm Springs, California, which is this beautiful desert-like oasis with palm trees everywhere and swimming pools and hot tubs. And so he came to live with me and my husband at that time. We invited him into our house because I really wanted to work with Dan. That was my side of the story. Is the reason I wanted to be friends with Dan is because he had such a readiness and an earnestness around this work. I was very that's contagious, to find people like that. So I wanted him in my life. And so it ended up being where we were just trying to find a place to go to do the inquiry. And it's like, well, just why not go to the hot tub? And then we went one day and then we stood literally almost every night for whatever 2 years, Dan, all of that work was developed in the hot tub, if I can remember right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it had to be 96 degrees because if it wasn't, it was too cold for inquiry. And if it was more than that, it was too hot for inquiry. So it was like a Goldilocks situation. Yes.
And I'm so fascinated and curious and interested to hear how it actually came about. Like, how did you possibly, I guess when I think of some of the techniques like thank you for arising, I love you, they're all kind of really simple techniques that you put words to something that perhaps people are doing anyway. But some things like reverse inquiry, the Kellerby clearing method, like how did they just arrive?
I want to talk about the utility inquiry because I think that's an interesting thing. Because I remember the thank you phrase, if people are aware of it, was just something that we did a lot. I came up with it one day thinking when we feel something, we don't want it to arise, we don't like it, we want it to go away. That's our operating system. So it seemed important to bring this phrase in, thank you for arising, I love you, you're welcome to stay, to counteract that resistance. That's simple, the way that came up. But there's a story behind every one of the tools, if I can remember. But one of the tools, utility inquiries, we were at the Kellerby Center one day and Dan came up to me. You could tell he was very excited, actually. And he said, the first thing he said to me, man, nothing happens in a vacuum. And I was like, okay, that's pretty esoteric. What are you saying? And but I understood he was onto something. He's like, but look, these beliefs that we see in inquiry, there's a usefulness to them. There's a utility. We don't just believe them for no reason in a vacuum. It's how we stay safe. It's how we get love. It's how we get attention and approval. And I was like, yeah, I've never actually considered that. So, and then it was just a matter of tweaking that out. And we kind of developed the tool, or he had developed it. And then I did it. I was like, the magic was there. It's like one of those things. And you can think up other tools, but it just doesn't have that that kind of thing. Like certain tools just are really spot on, and that was one of them. The other one's the story is not as fun as that one, but that's a fun story. How Dan came up to me one day and said nothing exists in a vacuum.
Yeah, it was real organic. All the utility inquiry and because it comes just from insights. So you have like I'm doing this inquiry and clearing stuff, and then I start to go, wait, stuff. Just, oh my gosh, maybe this. I started thinking about utility payoffs. How does this beliefs serve me? How does this pattern serve me?
I actually found using the utility inquiry, which is one of the techniques, I realized that I was holding on to depression, because if I didn't have depression, then I would lose my husband. I would lose Lee. It was like, if I'm not struggling, then he might just not love me. So that was just a profound shift. It was like, oh, right, I'm clinging on to this bad thing because it's actually serving me. So you've spoken.
Wow.
Sorry.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that was what's holding your depression together. It's interesting to find out that it's like you can't even know what's holding it together, but then you found it and then it all falls apart like that.
And that's kind of what happened, right? Because it was so solid. It was like, I have depression. Like it was so a part of my identity. And using the Kellerby inquiries, it was like, I'm just a person who has thoughts and feelings. I'm a human being. And now I have the tools, and yeah. So, so you've shared a little bit about the Kellerby Centre, but Scott and Dan, if you can share just the success of, like, it's still quite early, right? I've found this early, which I'm very thankful for. And hopefully more people will find a body-based approach with my book. But yeah, what's the success so far in terms of how many people across the world are finding the Kellerby inquiries? What's the success at the Kellerby Centre? Can you tell us a little bit more about what the Kellerby Centre is?
Well, Kellerby Center is a licensed treatment center. So we're licensed to treat drug and alcohol addiction, but almost everybody comes with co-occurring disorder. So, co-occurring depression, trauma, anxiety that goes along with the addiction. So we end up treating almost everything, even chronic pain, because pain can be a driver for addiction. So it's licensed for that. And what I can probably say that we've been studying we've had an independent assessment of our modality for about 3 years now. So an independent company completely unassociated with us comes in, assesses our clients regularly, gives us all that data. So if anybody wants, we have really good success rates, actually. We're very proud of them. Go to kellerbycenter.com, go to the blog section and just type in success rates or results or success, actually, and you'll find the different publications of that. In terms of online, we're building now, like the people that are working with me are building this assessment form that is much less technical than the one we do at the Kellerby Center. It's very detailed there, that assessment, the Kellerby Center, but something more general to see if people are being helped by the modality, like where they start, where they are in the middle, and where they are in the end, and maybe even some follow-up. So we're putting that in place now. We're working on that. But I've been going on YouTube, making these videos saying, would anybody like to come and help me? It's such a big endeavor that I'm asking. I'm like, hey, I figured out a way to work with emotional repression. I think it's involved with chronic pain and illness. Are there any doctors out there that want to come work with me and form a partnership? But one of the things I want to do is I want to do controlled studies. If we can get the money, the funding for it, I would like to someday do those studies, and we're way too early on for that right now.
Wow. And Dan, how does it feel to have something that you and Scott brought into the world through the hot tub sessions just impact and have such a profound healing on people all over the world?
I mean, it's beautiful. I have joy about it. We just finished a group training a month ago, and everybody that checked in, it was like for a couple months, and everybody that checked in at the end was sort of giving their stories of doing the work and doing it relationally with each other and the shifts that have happened for them. And I just felt it was just so much joy. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful, And because I know I got so much out of create the process of doing it, you know, which was mostly like digging into my old stuff and undoing it. And so to know that other folks are doing that too is just, yeah, it's awesome. You know, I love it. Yeah.
A lot of it, Bronte, you know, just real quick, is like anecdotal. We get to hear people. This is, I think we're going to look back at these years, Dan and I, maybe a lot of us, and think of like, this is a really magical time because we just developed it and now it's got a life of its own. You know, it's way out of our hands. That's how it feels. And lots of people are getting into it now. And I think much more will in the future. But the stories are anecdotal. Like people will tell us in sessions, that's where the gold is. Like they'll say, look, I've been trying everything else. And like, this is the only thing. And it's like, I know what that's like to be, you know, to be desperate and to finally find something that works. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I will be always forever grateful for you both bringing in the Kellerby inquiries into the world. And I'm just so thankful that I stumbled across it when I needed it. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. Yeah.
Congratulations on your book, and you're doing wonderful things out in the world. So we support you, and we're honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much. All right, take care, and yeah, I'll see you on the other side.
Bye. Thanks, Bronte. See you.
So it's just not known. So a somatic-based approach or a body-based approach to improving your mental health, it's just not known. I had depression for 20 years. I did all the things, all the right things. I was going to see psychologists and counselors. I was doing meditation. I was doing mindfulness, yoga. I was doing positive affirmations, journaling. I was looking after myself, like looking after, you know, watching what I was eating. I was like focusing on the positives, all of that. I was doing all of the things. I was doing energy work as well. But none of that took my depression away. And the only thing that did was learning how to come to my body and feel my feelings. So I did touch on this before, that like, I used to be someone, I was just like, feelings, emotional well-being, emotional health, how is that going to fix anything? When my mum passed away, I was like, what's the point in feeling sad? That just makes things like feel bad. And what I realized was that any kind of thoughts that I had in my head had an emotion with it, and it was actually the body sensation, like the visceral feeling, like the heaviness in my chest or the lurky feeling in my shoulders or the tingling in my legs. That coupled with the thoughts in my mind was actually what made it painful. And I was just so terrified to go towards my pain. I had a psychologist say, you know, maybe your thoughts about the pain are worse than the actual pain. And I remember her taking me to my body for the first time, just this one time, and I just could not handle it. It was just too much. And so I went out of my body, and we just went back to talk therapy, just focusing on talking about my issues and my problems. And I just think if only she had the tools like the Kellerby inquiries to guide me, to show me how to feel safe, to hold that space for me to feel safe, and unravel the nervous system. I'll tell you a little bit about the neuroscience. So what they've found is that when we have distressing or traumatic events, what can happen is our nervous system can get stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze response, that survival response, well after a traumatic or a distressing event has happened. So that's why we either we're kind of find ourselves hypervigilant, like just stressed or anxious about the smallest things, because our nervous systems can be stuck in that same response, that same survival response from the distressing experience or event. or perhaps we end up in like a withdrawal state, or it's like a freeze, shutdown, collapse, or fawn response, sometimes it's called, or in my book I call it a please response. So it's like when we kind of withdraw and retreat, and we kind of feel safer in that protective state. And for me, it was like I was kind of in the world, but not in the world. And so using these techniques has actually helped me come into being connected to myself, and then felt safe to be connected with other people, and then felt safe to be connected with the world itself. An incomplete trauma cycle is when the trauma or the emotional memory gets stuck in the body. So that's like our emotional baggage. We know that as emotional baggage, but the science now shows that we actually have stored emotional memory, which we feel as sensations in the body. And so when we come and learn how to feel our feelings and sit with our feelings, and not sit in our shit, not sit in the crap or sit in the mess, because that's painful. That's not what we're doing. What we do is, with the Kellerby inquiries, is we take the words and pictures, the memories, the people away, and then we're just left with sensations. And from that place, it's a lot safer to integrate your emotions. It's called integration. And when you process and integrate your emotions, then you heal that experience, you heal that trauma, and then you feel a lot clearer, a lot lighter, a lot freer. I had just an extraordinary experience 2 weeks after this moment, that I allowed the feeling of depression take over my whole body. And I had like avoided that for 20 years. I just thought, if I let this feeling come, I'll die. I'll just like end up in a big black hole. And what I realized was that when I let the feelings come, they dissipate. It's in the resistance, that's what made it really hard. And yeah, it's like such a celebration, because it's like there is something that works, and there's something pivotal that's missing in our education system, and in our mental health system, also just in families in general. Like, this is a really important time for us to learn how to be in our bodies. And years ago, I was like, what do you mean by that? I don't even know what you mean. But come and learn. And yeah, I just want you all to receive the benefits of this. So I'm just now looking at my notes. Forgot to do Acknowledgement of Country. I can do it right now. It's meant to be at the start, but I'm acknowledging all Dja Dja Wurrung speaking people of the Kulin Nation, and I'm acknowledging all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders across Australia, and I'm acknowledging our beautiful Mother Earth, who supports and nourishes us and holds us and feeds us, and is always supporting us. So why I wrote this book, I'm just going to take a drink of water. So I wrote this book because once I learned the Kellerby inquiries, I just could not believe that all I had to do was apply simple mindfulness, apply mindfulness to my thoughts that I had. So I had some really strong stories like, I'm a loser, no one loves me, I'm stupid, I'm wrong, I'm bad. And so I didn't actually know the full extent of those stories until I practiced the Kellerby inquiries. They were really cemented and hidden in my subconscious. But I did know, I was well aware of stories like, I'm not good enough. So they're like stories like, I'm not good enough, that's an example of a story that I realized in talk therapy when I went to go and see a psychologist and counselor. And I felt like I was kind of stuck with that. I was like, I don't know how to get rid of it because it felt so real. And so I'll show you something. we have something in the Kellerby inquiries called the Velcro Effect. So you can see that we have on the top, we have the words and pictures, which is probably backwards for you, I know. And then underneath, we have the body sensations. So another word for the words and pictures is our thoughts. So in our head, we have words, which are the thoughts, and we also have pictures. So if you think of a purple banana, then you're going to have a picture of a purple banana. So that's that's our mental realm, like that's what's happening in our mind. And then the body sensations are feelings. So we can overcomplicate feelings. We're like, feelings, emotions, they're like this thing, this like ungraspable thing. We're like, we don't know what to do with emotions, but they're actually just physical sensations. So when we're in our pain, when we're in our negativity, when we're in our anxiety or depression, then the words and pictures are stuck to the body sensations like Velcro. Like the top layer of the Velcro is stuck to the body, to the bottom of the bottom layer of Velcro, which is the body sensations or feelings. So and that's when life is really, really hard. And then what we do in the Kellerby inquiries is we use techniques that are based on acceptance and compassion, that we take the top layer of Velcro away. So we take the words and pictures away. You're just left with body sensations. And when you're just left with body sensations, you're not coming to your feelings stuck in the story, because the words have already gone. And you're coming to the body to feel and process and basically allow these feelings to be here. And when you do that, then you stumble upon something, what I've termed body intelligence, which is your body knows exactly what to do. It knows how to process its own emotions. And we don't have to do anything to get rid of it. I think that was part of my problem having depression. I was like, but I'm trying to do all the things, and I was very exhausted, and I was trying to stay positive all the time and reframe my thinking and flip my beliefs. But what the neuroscience shows us is that it doesn't matter what you do here, you're still going to have that stored trauma or that emotional memory in your body from those past experiences that you've had, until you come to the body and you integrate it, you process it, you feel it. So when you feel it, you heal it. So I wrote this book because I just couldn't believe I had had depression for 20 years and no one had shown me a very simple thing. So that's what I do with my clients. I hold the space for my clients to look at the words that they, I remember I couldn't even verbalize the words, I'm a loser. They just felt so real. And the words like, I'm falling apart. Those words I couldn't even verbalize because I would cry. I felt like I was actually falling apart. Another thing I want to say too is that this book is for people who, it's mainly for those of you who have depression and anxiety, and you've tried to do all the things, you've done all the things, and you still have depression. And so it's for you guys, but it's also for people who have loved ones who have depression and anxiety. And I try to explain what helps somebody with depression and anxiety. So while we want to help our friends and family, and we want to have the solutions for them, and we want to give them advice and tell them, well, why don't you try this and this and this? For me, when I had that ongoing all the time, I had lots of people trying to come up with the answers for me. It actually made me feel worse. I'm really sorry to say I know that people were trying to help, but it was actually, it made me retreat more. And all I really needed was to have that space be held for me where my feelings could be acknowledged and I could just be accepted with depression. So that's, so this book is also for people who have loved ones with depression and anxiety. and it's okay to cry. It's also for those of you who are mental health professionals who are interested in, for those clients who have, perhaps you have clients who are not responding to talk therapy. And so when I say talk therapy, it's basically when you go and talk to someone, you go and you talk through your problem. So it's a cognitive based or a mind based process. CBT is an example of cognitive talk therapy, whereas a somatic based approach is where you're encompassing the body. And I just can't stress to you enough that the body-based approach, I mean, that's what worked for me. It could be the answer for you. And yeah, I just want to see this in our mental health system more. I have since recently been told that somatic therapy is a part of the mental health system, but it's just not known. It's not well known. Like, I never was offered somatic-based therapy or a somatic-based approach. The other thing I've also put in a chapter called Dreaming a New Dream, and that's for teachers, because I was a classroom teacher and I never was taught how to show my students how to feel their feelings. So it's called interoception, that's the fancy word, and I actually have an ebook on my website at brontespicer.com for. It's a free ebook for all teachers. If you're teaching your students about emotions and you're teaching them how to label their emotions, my ebook shows you how to help them feel their feelings in their bodies, how they can, so they learn how to feel their emotions in their bodies. All right, so I think I did share my. Just to finish off, I did share my book with Glennon Doyle, who's the author of Untamed. If you haven't read that book, it's a really, really excellent book. It's so good. And so she said the other day, she has a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things. And she said the other day, in her podcast, how do we feel hard feelings without being consumed by them? How do we experience emotions, not as good or bad, but simply as helpful guides pointing us toward information about ourselves and our environments? So my book actually answers those questions. So like we think that they're really hard, but if you have the right tools, then you can actually feel them without being consumed by them. And that's absolutely what happened for me. I just had this idea that my pain from the past was just so much, and I just couldn't look at it and I couldn't go there, and it was all too much. And so that's just what kept me stuck with depression. So using the Kellerby inquiries is a slow, gradual, safe, nurturing, compassionate, gentle, it's a gentle way to dissolving depression. Yeah, so we'll see if Glennon Doyle reads my book. How cool would that be? Oh, all right, well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so fun. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for supporting me. I really hope you enjoy the book. Let's see, I'm just going to go through the comments now. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so fun. And if you haven't grabbed your copy, you can go to brontespicer.com. Yeah, thank you, Leah. It is. It's so important. A body-based approach. It doesn't make sense because we think mental health is like a problem in the mind, but actually no, it's a mind-body thing. And lots of trauma specialists are talking about this, like Gabor Mate, Peter Levine, Deb Dana. A lot of great people are teaching this. So yeah, jump on